From Montana's news leader, this is the MTN Noon News.
Good afternoon, and thanks for joining us on the Noon News. I'm Diane Parker. Miller has our snowy forecast. Plus, we take you to Montana's freeze-out lake, where thousands of geese are migrating. But first, our top story. After historic flooding in Yellowstone National Park last season, we're checking in to see whether there was a big winter rebound in tourism. MTN's John Shear reports.
At the Gardner Chamber of Commerce, the focus now is on the coming spring and summer seasons. That's because this winter, well,
certainly pales in comparison to previous winters.
Lots of guiding companies tell me the same thing. The big winter surge never really happened after access to the park was restored at the end of October following last June's flooding.
In town, I would say it didn't feel very busy. I think that a lot of it had to do with the Mammoth Hotel closure.
It's been a great winter for wildlife watching in the park. The snow is deep, the crowds are smaller. In fact, this place has been popular in the past because a grizzly bear has been seen coming out of its den just over the hillside here. Now, that's wonderful for those who want to avoid the crowds, not so great for businesses who depend on those crowds.
You know, the economic aspects are not great, and I especially worry about my employees, hoping that they have enough to kind of keep themselves fed and pay utilities and rent and all that sort of thing.
But not everyone suffered.
Our winter has really turned out very nice.
The manager of this hotel also told me this winter was a great season because people who couldn't stay in Mammoth stayed here. Now, hopes are high for the summer.
I think it'll be really good. I think that hopefully we'll be adequately staffed and able to handle the capacity that we're expecting.
I think it's going to be a big summer because there were a lot of people last year who, due to the floods, canceled their trip entirely.
I am very optimistic about this summer. Easter will be the next telltale, for me anyway, on how the summer will go.
For Guy McGarry, who's hanging on through the lean winter, well, there's an upside to almost everything.
You either get time or money, and rarely both. So we're getting some nice time to collect our thoughts, prepare for the summer, reevaluate and reassess the way that we do things, and hopefully come back even better.
Now, Kara tells me she used some of that extra time to visit friends in Australia. But now, she says, it's time to get back to work. In Gardner, near the entrance to Yellowstone National Park, I'm John Shearer, MTN News.
Happy Monday, everybody. Hope you had a great weekend. Now back at it we go. We'll take a look at our local areas in terms of the forecast. But first, let's take a look across the 48s. Continental U.S. Southeast, heavy rain with potential flash flooding and severe weather. Unfortunately, there's the possibility where we could see some more tornado activity from Alabama to Georgia, maybe even up into southern parts of South Carolina, coming off of that storm system that wreaked havoc in parts of Mississippi and Georgia with those tornadoes, devastating there. Northeast, series of frontal systems increase precipitation chances, and portions of the plains and the Great Lakes, chilly temperatures, and we'll have a chance of snow. For us, still a chance of snow in the forecast at times this week, and we're going to stay colder than average. We'll tell you why coming up.
In Billings, a suspect is dead and a sheriff's deputy is on administrative leave as a wild weekend crime spree ends with officers firing their weapons. 45-year-old Vilene Not Afraid is accused of stealing a car at gunpoint Saturday before leading police on a high-speed chase through downtown Billings and the Heights. She hit multiple cars along the way. When police finally surrounded her at the Main Street and Lake Elmo Drive intersection, she refused to get out of the vehicle. SWAT teams used gas to force her out. She exited the car, pointing a gun at officers, and that's when a Yellowstone County Tactical Response Team deputy shot her.
It was just a complete shock to have, to just be sitting at a traffic light and have somebody like trying to push their way through or successfully pushing their way through a group of stopped cars.
Law enforcement is expected to release more details about the incident later today. Meanwhile, another weekend shooting lands a suspect under 18 years old behind bars. The victim is an adult who is currently in the hospital. Police say the shooting happened around 4:30 yesterday morning in the 2300 block of Patricia Lane. The suspect was booked into youth services. No other details have been released at this time. On social media Sunday, someone posted this picture. It's one of the interpretive signs at the Bear Tracks Bridge in Missoula, torn out of the ground and ditched on a nearby staircase. The Bear Tracks Bridge, renamed in dedication last year to a prominent member of the Salish tribe, features several interpretive signs on the south side. Now, none of the remaining signs showed any damage, and no word from Missoula police on this potential case of vandalism. And that's a look at some of the day's top stories.
From Florida to Washington, that's how far one Oregon man is walking through rain and snow for a cause that's near to his heart. Peter Lilly is walking to raise awareness for cancer research, and he made a stop in the Magic City along the way.
Peter Lilly may be a long way from home in Oregon, but for him, home isn't a destination.
Home is where your heart is.
And right now, home for Peter is a 3,000-mile trek on foot from Florida all the way to Washington, all for a cause that started 9 years ago.
9 years ago, my dad died of brain cancer, and I was incapable mentally of keeping the same level of employment that I had.
He found that hiking helped him deal with the grief of his father's death and decided to hike along the West Coast, when something unexpected happened along the way.
People were donating to cancer research centers or whatever as I was doing this hike.
People donated over $20,000 in funds towards Peter's cause back then. Fast forward to 2022, and another tragedy occurred.
After my grandma died of brain cancer, they thought it was Alzheimer's for 3 years, and I was the only one that knew because I was really close to my dad.
Now Peter's on another trek, one that started in Florida last year, hoping to raise even more money towards cancer research.
Been walking ever since May, and stayed in Casper and Douglas, Wyoming for the winter.
He stays at friends' houses and picks up work along the way. He arrived in Billings just 4 days ago and will be going to Bozeman on Wednesday. Not an easy task.
Every time I set off and leave a city, it's gut-wrenching.
But the goal to raise money for cancer research helps him keep on trekking.
My dad, if he heard that I was doing this, he'd be like, yep, that's my son. I believe it. That's totally him.
And he keeps the memories of his father and grandmother with him along the way.
My grandma, she always said, you can do anything you put your mind to. I'm not saying that about everybody, but you can.
If you're interested in donating to Peter's cause or his trip, visit this story on our website. In Billings, Alina Howder, MTN News.